Alright. Sorry guys, my obs crashed.
We still love you.
Yeah.
I just want to note right now. I just
I'm
want to note right now that you can't go to the bottom part of the map. That's where the limit of the map is. It's like cut off there.
Oh, is the bottom path impassable?
No, it's like there's like a huge area at the bottom in the image, but you can't actually go there. There's just a narrow path at the bottom. If you go to push down there.
Oh, that's outside of the bounds of the map, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That part with the salt mines thing, you can't really go past that at all. That's sort of the boundary of the map. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot more variety that's possible. And so hopefully I don't think many people have gotten to really play serious games on the new Salt and Canary, but obviously it'll be better. Just how better, I guess, is the real question. So yeah, Frisky, Buckies can't fire at air targets anymore. What's that gonna do?
Almost nothing.
All right. I was pretty much of the same opinion. I mean, it'll be a little better, but I mean, the mechs distracting Buckies was not necessarily the problem, so. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. If you're worried for your Buckies about the mech, I mean, most of the time it's because they're on the ground getting shredded, and you're hoping that the Buckies could, maybe shoot something that they could hit. But I see this as a prelude to Bucky's getting shooter AI.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't make the Bucky balanced per se, but I don't think the Bucky necessarily needs to be balanced. That's kind of what makes it fun. I think it's pretty unique and should stay that way, personally.
So, I mean,
it is unique, but it's unusable.
What I'm hearing is it's okay that it's not really viable in gameplay. It's mostly just a fun unit, and if that's the intent, then that's fine. But I kind of like it. It's hilarious to me. It's adorable. Everyone wants a Bucky plushie, I've got to admit.
I want a Bucky plushie.
So guys, you cannot latch non-infantry to the outpost door bunkers. So everyone kind of got annoyed by the fact that you could do that, and like you usually got stuff stuck in bunkers and it was annoying. But what does what function did non-infantry actually have in bunkers?
Can I jump in there, or?
If the outpost went neutral, then they would block all infantry from going in. But I mean, infantry, if you want to put infantry in there, that's still better, because then you can just keep your outpost from going neutral. The only exception is if you're using probes, which you cannot put in bunkers. Probes are actually kind of viable after after one of the patches, mini patches. So that might come into effect, but realistically, it's not going to be a huge change. No one used probes, and infantry are better.
I think it's a pretty significant change, actually, because one of the best things that you could ever socket in one of the outpost slots is a boxer. Because then you have 4 infantry on each socket before you could only have
Frisky, you
one.
just cut out for me. Did I just?
What's going on? If I'm cutting out for you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I'm assuming Annihilator can't hear me.
But that was the way that you'd exploit the bunkers before, is to put boxers on it, so that instead of having 4 infantry, you'd have 16 infantry placed around your outpost, and so you could never neutralize it.
Yeah, that's the one thing off the top of my head I didn't
I'm not
consider.
getting anyone else speaking. What's going on here?
Can someone in chat tell him to relog? Because everyone can hear everyone besides him. But anyway, so that's one thing I didn't really consider. Bunkering boxers and getting multiple infantry to refill the bulbs. I mean, it's not a heavily used tactic, but now we will not be a used tactic at all. So,
it also has the benefit of not tricking noobs into thinking that their socketing is giving them some kind of bonus when they're actually doing nothing.
All right, exactly. So hopefully, I know one of the comments was, "Yay! Now noobs will stop socketing T4 or bunkering T45s," and my comment was high hopes. Someone unmute him, please. The heavy mine arm time, Annihilator did touch on that. I think it'll be fine on medium-sized maps, but on large maps like Vale and Crater, Sandrim, Thar, it could still be problematic because 7 seconds is not. Depending. Most of the time you're going to be using slow tanks, especially late game. You're going to be using goalies, so still can definitely be used reactively.
I just want to note. The one thing about heavy mines that most people don't know, if you put something on them while they're arming, it's not going to be able to arm the mine. So if you can like get it down within the 7 seconds, a lot easier than 3. So if you can put a unit on top for arms and then like put that unit on hold, it's gonna just stop it with a heavy mine.
Okay, yeah. I didn't really consider that's one of the benefits for the extended arm time. It's kind of more of a micro trick than a mechanic, but yeah, it's also another tactic that we can now use that is technically in the game. Okay, last thing we're going to cover for current state of the game, which is pretty much future state of the game, which is the Canary, is the new pathing. And right now I'm going to turn on my game. I am in a 1v1 right now with FriskyCow. Clearly we've been in for 28 minutes right now, but if you hit the V button and you can actually rebind it, you will start drawing a path, and your units will follow that path until the path is ended. So let's stop it here. Okay, and then at the end of that path, they will execute the command that you give them. Come on.
I'm watching you fail.
Shut up. So I set them on T. I don't know if they're actually following the path. Yes, they are. They are clearly on the path. So you guys can see that. Frisky can't because he's not on my team.
I just see the tanks moving. I see no path, but they do seem to be going curious
in a weird wiggly thing. Yeah. And by the will they even survive? Level 4 creeps are way too strong. I think they need to be nerfed. No, they probably don't. But something should probably be done. But anyway. So now once they hit the... Well, look, it's still a little bit buggy. Obviously, they're going to work out the kinks. It's a new mechanic. And now these things are turning. Are they following the lead guy? What is happening here? Now they're backing up. I'm so confused. Oh, and I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to die.
This outpost was red just a second ago.
Oh, I didn't
realize. At the end of the path, their
oh!
previous command kicks in.
Ah, that was hilarious. Yeah, so that was hilarious. I didn't realize that. So they did back up because they were set on T, and now they are moving on T again. So they had to go up this ramp. I'll set off the heavy mines or the light mines so they don't take damage. And now they are going here. So this can be used in a lot of different ways. So let's start off with the guy in the game with me, Frisky. How can this be used now?
I think one of the most obvious ways is to choose which outpost your capture commands go to, or to sidestep a big wall of defenses in mid, something like that, and then attack from another angle. So I really like, because I actually have multiple paths drawn right now. Once you draw them, it's not like a one-use thing, it's like the entire game thing. So I have a path going to each of your outposts right now, and all I have to do is hover over a different spot when I press the key, and I can attack anywhere on the map I want with no micro. It just, they go along the predetermined path.
Let's see an example of that. Where are you? I can't even...
I am up at my top left outpost.
Alright, you are at top left, and you have a couple units made? Alright, so where do you have your paths drawn? Maybe it would have been better if I could have spec'd you, but either way.
I have a path right here that's going up and around to your top right, so normally if I were to hit T here, they would go straight to mid or something, because you had mid most of the game, but I can actually just send these units. They'll go upright. I can take these units and I can send them upright. I can take these units and send them down to your bottom right, and so everyone's just kind of following their own path. So even though I just gave everything T command, they are split, and they're split in a way that I had predetermined, which I also like, because bypasses the waypoint system for the duration of the path. When they get to the end of it, then I care about waypoints, because then maybe they won't get there, maybe they won't. Or I could stop them at the end of the path with hold. So this lets you, say, if you're on Salt or something where there's only like 3 waypoints somewhere, you can actually send a much larger force to an outpost than you would normally be able to get there, and then hold position when it reaches the end of the path. And so it doesn't have to follow the predetermined Y pathing. Another option you could use it for is retreat. So where are you right now? If I wanted to take these jackals and say, move them somewhere else, I could just... well, you kind of killed them all.
Oh, my bad. I'm just doing what comes natural to me and killing your stuff. But yes, retreat would be good. That's one thing that a lot of people have.
Move away from the post.
Right. So, Eagle, I know you weren't able to play this exact Canary, but you were able to play the last one. It's pretty much the same. It's easier to draw paths now. You don't run into crap as much to stop you from drawing. So, what do you think is are some ways that this can be used as well?
Yeah, I'm sure all the bugs will be fixed eventually. The thing I most am liking about this new pass system is that you can retreat your units. So it's kind of an interesting solution to the not having a retreating button problem. And so you can literally just move your units back to your base if it's being attacked without having to carry them all at once. And I was also interested to see how easily a controller player would be able to use it, but I see that you are using a controller on the stream, and it looked pretty easy, so I guess that's not a problem either. So I think the opportunities are limitless depending on the map. I think larger maps such as Thar or Vale definitely have more opportunity than something like Simple, but
right.
It definitely could be used on any map, so I'm excited to see what these high-tier players will make of it.
I just want to note that I'm using KBM.
Okay. One thing about Rust. Previously, if you tried to attack and your units were not positioned properly, then your units would like if you're doing a fight at mid and it's like a stalemate and you want to push in and your units are not positioned properly, they would split up. It's a bit less effective to push out, but now you can make them all go on one path and kind of just keep them all together. That's going to be pretty nice on there as well. There's a lot of things, is the point.
Yeah, I want to note that this pathing system, right now, I don't know if they're planning on it, but right now it doesn't support formations within the path. Like, they all go single file down the path, kind of like old days. Hopefully
they do change speed, though. It's not like a completely for 6 formations. If I'm
right, it's
like
still
a bunch of. Alright.
Yeah, it still holds unified mass command speed, so that's one good thing. And yeah, I actually talked to Tipsy, who uses controller regularly, and he actually did say on controller it's not that easy. It's probably something to get used to. I mean, at first it was a little difficult for me on KBM, but after a game or 2 or 3, I got more used to it. It's still a little bit weird, but hopefully once everyone masters this new mechanic, we can do some awesome things. Alright, and I'm going to leave Frisky because we're going to go on to the next topic.
Frowny face.
And that is going to be the past mechanic for the day. Yeah.
I will just execute you.
I left. I don't care. Alright, yeah, so it will be the past mechanic of the day, and it's going to be creep ability upgrades, which previously was spawn rate, or now it's spawn rate, but previously it was levels per upgrade. So guys, previously to the quarter system, the creep ability upgrade actually leveled up your creeps for each point spent into it. Quarters converted the leveling method to being time-based, with a level gained across the board after each 5-minute quarter expired. Okay. Since then, the quarter system has been abolished, but the creep progression method has not. It has been considered near worthless to invest in. Now that abilities are restricted by a credit cost and a level minimum, how would changing the ability back to its previous functionality change the game? Eagle.
Alright, so I'm a numbers guy, so I'm going to throw some numbers at you that I picked up. So as you said, creeps are upgraded from tiers 1 through 4 every 5 minutes automatically during the game. And at level 4, the creeps are actually more powerful than the SAM. So when the quarter system was first added, the ability also changed from upgrading the creeps rather than decreasing their spawn time, which at default is 20 seconds. And the ability decreased that by half a second per ability level. So this went along with the quarter system well, I thought. However, when they changed the quarter system back to a clock that increases in time, there are no quarters, so it's really hard to tell, especially for new players, when the creeps are upgrading. And the creep ability has been pretty much rendered useless because a second and a half is hardly worth the over 10,000 credits you would spend on their abilities, and not to mention that you can't even max out the ability until in-game level 7, I believe. So, my solution would be to go back to the way it originally was and upgrade the creeps by 1 level per ability purchase, and also give it the same in-game level restrictions as your XP ability so that you can max out the creeps quickly.
I think that would be pretty OP actually, because it feels like before they go down, I've usually seen them deal, like, for level 4 creeps, usually deal something on 300 damage at least. I think that if you leveling them up ability the same restrictions as the level up XP bonus is gonna be pretty broken.
I would agree with that. I think level 4 creeps are really powerful, and if you were going to make it possible to tech creeps and like make that that's my gameplay style, is I'm going to invest in creeps, I think you have to make the upgrade more expensive to compensate for the early access.
Either that, or you could put the levels to, like, first point at 2, second point 5, third point 9 or something.
Yeah, another option could be spawn decrease maybe, but I like the leveling because it just gives a lot more opportunity for bot spawners to be used, which is something we don't really see, and I'm all for socket diversity.
I think bot spawner is kind of the most viable late game once you already have level 4 creeps, or really the creep upgrade is only noticeable when you have mass bot spawner. So I think if we change the creep upgrades around a little bit, it might really make bot spawners overpowered, but at least it would make people who don't use bot spawners, it would give them an option. Something that might actually be usable.
The thing is, right now, bot spawners are not viable. They really haven't been. The only reason that maybe you're seeing them more right now is just because moneymakers in general aren't really as powerful as they used to be. So starting off with bot spawners is not really that bad. I agree that what the specifics that Eagle went over were a little bit much. They would probably be a little OP at that point. But the concept generally, personally, I like the creep level up better than the way it's working right now. Honestly, the way that it's working right now, it's one of the last time-based things in the game, and I really don't like time-based events in AirMech. The spawning credit boxes is pretty much the last thing besides that. But yeah, new players also aren't really going to have a good time grasping why are these creeps changing, and when does it happen. There's no real, notification in game that actually tells you creeps are upgrading because it's 5 minutes later than it used to be. But yeah, I would like to see it go back. Obviously, we're going to have to figure out the balance for it. It would be a lot more fun, and obviously it will have different effects between 1v1, 2v2, and 3v3, because before, when it was the level up system, when you upgraded the ability, it only upgraded every iteration of creep wave that, like, if it was a 3v3, it would only be every third creep wave, because you are 1/3 of the team. 2v2 it was every other one, and 1v1 it was every single one. So the numbers will definitely have to be looked at again.
You just change the number of creeps in every wave. I think right now it's 5. If we made it 6 creeps, you could say, oh, 2 of every creeps will be upgraded, 2 of every creep spawn, because that's something 6 can be divisible by 3, it can be divisible by 2. If it's a 2v2, it'll be half your creeps, 3v3 will be a third.
Yeah, there's definitely lots of different solutions. I just think something needs to be done. For me, it's lumped into that category along with the credit boxes. It's just really a failed mechanic that's still lingering in-game for really no reason.
Yeah, and the fact that no one ever uses it, it's ridiculous. Obviously, it's something that needs to change. How it needs to change, that's obviously up to Carbon, but I think the majority of people do like the dynamic that upgrading creeps creates. Maybe another possibility would be adding another creep per wave for upgrades, something like that, or 2 creeps per, up to subject to balance, but that's just another possible option. But yeah, bot spawners are really dependent on creep level, and I kind of don't like that. It's not terrible, but it could definitely be more interesting and cooler.
It's just because the power swing of a creep from level 1 to level 4 is such a stark contrast that bot spawners really are dependent on being level 4, because level 1 creeps are cannon fodder for anything and everything, and level 4 creeps are a little bit stompy. So you might just nerf level 4 creeps, buff level 1 creeps, make it less of a difference with creep level, or just change creeps so that they don't change level. Just make all creeps level 2 creeps, they don't upgrade. Or because it's a time-based mechanic, it makes no sense, because there's no notification, there's no nothing, just suddenly your creeps get stronger.
While we're on the topic of it makes no sense, there should be far less arbitrary things that are listed in RUI's thread. It's so long.
Yeah,
Lists
hidden
of things
mechanics.
that are just so arbitrary.
Yeah. Eagle?
Nothing, just last thought. I don't know, I kind of like Frisky's suggestion of nerfing the creeps and kind of giving them all level 2 or 3, and then being able to upgrade to have, say, 5, 6, 7, 8 creeps spawn per wave. So, I mean, yeah, there's lots of solutions. Carbon just needs to choose one and test it out.
Yeah,
And see what the community thinks.
I think probably the biggest message right now is the way that it works right now doesn't make any sense, and it's boring. All these different suggestions that we've been making any of them would probably be more interesting and more fun than the way that it currently works now. So a change needs to be made. Let's work that out as a community and as a player base. Eagle, just want to mention, for some reason right now you're sounding very electronic. You might want to have to wiggle your mic cord or something like that. Alright guys, so we're just going to go back into the next topic. Or, sorry, I'm going to go back into my PowerPoint. By the way guys, I use PowerPoint for this. Yeah, presentations, something that the average student doesn't really want to think about or care about, but, someday you might want to use it for a video game presentation, and that's when PowerPoint skills will come into play. Anyway, we're going to go to the next topic, which is going to be socket unit balance and socket bonuses. A recent buff to offensive socketable units has resulted in a small surge in T99 and defensive artillery use. Anything on socket now fires at double rate every other shot, effectively giving you 1.5 units for the price of 1. Has this been an overall positive change, Frisky? And should offensive socket units receive any more or different buffs while on socket?
I actually really like using 99s on socket. If you notice, I had a T99 in every socket that game. Because T99s are kind of the turret that actually does respectable damage versus everything. And when you put it on socket and get that 1.5 times damage boost, it actually becomes decent anti-air, it becomes decent anti-tank, and it's fairly cost effective. But I'd say that's probably most because now it is comparatively better to kind of outdated, underused moneymakers, generators, letters. Most of the other socket units have kind of fallen out of favor. Turrets have become the thing that you use, or either that or artillery. Like on the smaller maps, Duel is probably the worst defender with the close outpost with that one socket right there. If you put a Bertha on that socket facing towards mid, you're doing almost double damage. It's just hilarious how much you can put out. But defensive artillery, I think, are too powerful. If you're not babysitting a push, if you're not putting 2 or 3 jammers with every push, and you don't micro, you can just kiss your entire massive units goodbye. I don't care how many you had, artillery will shred it.
I think the new pathing system might have something to say about that.
Actually, yeah. But
yeah,
artillery is just as easily repositioned, probably much more easily than a new path is drawn.
I just want to add, I kind of wanted to keep as much stuff that I've mentally wanted to keep a little bit in my head instead of share it with everybody. But one thing I was thinking of doing, or actually tried to do, is when you lead something to an outpost or to a fort, draw a circle around that outpost or a circle around that fort, and it'll actually have those units loop over and over and over and over again. And maybe that'll have a pretty major effect on defensive artillery, especially for fort defense. Annihilator, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to note that you can also split units better with the new pathing system. That's a pretty good way to also deal with artillery.
Oh yeah, you can just draw a path real quick and then just send them to that one spot or something like that.
Like send one mass on T and then send another mass on a path that takes an alternate route at post, and the artillery can't defend both locations.
Right.
It's a lot harder. So
the new mechanics are kind of changing my old problems with the balance, so it'll be interesting to see how it levels out.
Yeah. So, Eagle, what do you think of the bonus on the socket right now? It just is the same old passive heal and the double fire rate every other shot. Do you think we should give more benefits, maybe increased range or something like that? Or what we have right now feels about right, or maybe there should be a little bit more?
Yeah, for me, if anything, these buffs aren't enough for the turret units, besides the artillery, which I think are buffed enough on sockets. I say increase the damage until people complain that socket units are OP. I would love to hear that. My reasoning is that it takes a lot more skill to effectively micro non-mobile units, so if people could effectively micro around T99s and stuff, we would have an overall more skilled community. So what really needs to be changed is the socket positioning on maps. We either need new maps with more strategic socket positioning, or some adjustments on our current maps so we can have more offensive turret play rather than defensive.
So say Chasm, where you have 8 sockets back at your fortress, maybe T99s aren't doing you a lot of good.
Exactly, unless you go in Defender's Advantage, which we'll talk about later. But
yeah, actually, you know that actually, this is kind of tangenty, but I was about to post a suggestion for movable fort and outpost sockets, something like you can actually pick them up in cargo and move them around within a certain radius of the outpost and fort, like they would be tethered to the outpost. So, but you could actually put them in custom locations. That would be really cool, I personally think.
Yeah, I've seen ideas for like an actual unit that is a socket, so you can just place it down and basically have another socket. So I think that would be a really cool thing to have, although I would be kind of hesitant just because I don't want to have players just be able to place down more generators and build more tanks. So this change, I would rather have it promote a more offensive playstyle, so like maybe they can only be used for turrets or something.
Oh, I meant socket, the ones that are already at your fort and outpost, those can
I
be
know
moved.
what you meant.
Oh, okay. Annihilator?
there's even like a wire, like you have wires from the fort and post to the socket, so that could be nice. You could just have those wires tether it.
That would be one way of doing it. You could, and to mark the area, actually, instead of having movable sockets, you could just say you make the ground around the fort or an outpost a different color, like it looks like wire mesh or something, and the first 5 socket units get the bonus, and everything after that doesn't.
Yeah, anything really. It's not really that bad. Insomniac saying move sockets further out permanently. I mean, that's kind of a general map design thing. It's, you know, socket positioning in fort positioning, especially in relation to paths and all that stuff, is kind of a general map design thing. Hopefully, we're gonna get map editor sometime. That'd be great. At least we have pathing though. That's great. Okay, guys, we're just gonna move on to the next topic, which is Defender's Advantage. Whoever pushes first loses. This has been an AirMech mantra since early beta, and to an extent even holds now. Defender's Advantage has always been a core principle in AirMech. From limited energy outposts to mass commands to formations, many measures have been taken towards towards lowering this advantage since the metagame was first formed. It has a significant influence not only on unit composition, but also on overall game-changing decisions. Annihilator, how strong should Defender's Advantage be in AirMech, and what further steps can be taken to reduce it even further?
Well, how strong you want it to be really depends on how you want AirMech to be played. if you want AirMech to be like, kind of, you just build up advantage, and then once you have enough, you push. Then I think this is basically it. You just, like, if you want that for AirMech, then you just add more units that are viable, and you have basically AirMech perfected. But I think a lot of people want just dynamic games where you try to push around and eventually just outmaneuver the opponent. And at that point, I think Defender's advantage should be like, the thing is, how should I put it? Well, if you wanted Defender's advantage in that sort of game, you'd want it would be more on unit positioning, so that if their units aren't there, then the Defender's advantage is almost nothing. But if there are, and you have quite a bit, like right now, Defender's advantage also includes the fact that you can pick up units from every outpost, and the issue with that is you can't like have dynamic pushing games because the enemies will just walk around if you 3v3 with 15 Golly in all their queues, and suddenly, what are you gonna do? So, I think it should be based more on, I want to say choke points and like concaves versus straight lines, and less on you can coming in and doing a ton. And the way to reduce it, make it like you can pick units up from a designated post beforehand. There'd be a way to change that designated post. I don't know. You could also, energy's pretty good, but perhaps it'll decrease the more you use it faster or something. So that way, like, if you're being pushed in, and then you're using a ton of energy on the post because they're like have a bunch of it, and you're trying to fly out and do stuff, and then you get low every time, and eventually the post will just run out of energy. But as it is, it recharges pretty fast if you just leave it for a bit. I think if that was reduced for the time being, then that would also be a good change.
Eagle?
Alright, so I think AirMech is kind of the fast-paced MOBA, ideally, so I don't think players choose AirMech as a game to kind of sit back and mass up a bunch of units and then eventually be able to push with a chance that it'll be defended. So I really think having less defender's advantage will be beneficial for this game, because ideally it would be like a 50-50 chance. So like defender has a 50% chance of defending the push, while the attacker has a 50% chance of gaining the outpost or finishing off the base or whatever. But right now the defender definitely has 60 or 70% chance of defending. I think as the police said in the chat, the pathing system can definitely help by having multiple prongs to your attack, so you can be sending units to a different place while you're focusing on a different outpost. But I also think another thing that could be done is to help work on unit formations while you're pushing. I know it's been worked on so that like while you're pushing the units kind of stay more grouped together, but I think if that could be improved even more, so you can kind of keep your formation that you would have set up in the middle, but kind of have it being mobile going down a lane, would definitely help out to the attacker, I guess.
I think that defender's advantage is too strong in the idea that they are defending mech and micro more, and they can use their army more efficiently, and they can also do more damage to the enemy army because they have more health to work with, kind of. And I think that's the aspect we should focus on reducing if we want those dynamic try to outmaneuver the opponent and take posts by just having their army not there.
I'm actually going to go out and say that most of the things that can be done to mitigate Defender's advantage have already been done. Like things that do area of effect damage and high burst DPS have been nerfed. Before it used to be, you see a push, fairy bombs, go build some more bombs, bring them back, build some more bombs, bring them back, and you bomb the push down. Okay, then bombs get nerfed. Then boomers, okay, boomers are now getting nerfed, and they've been nerfed time and time again. Heavy mines are getting nerfed. All these reactionary things that do burst damage are getting nerfed. Artillery have a hard counter now. Things like the unlimited outpost energy where you can just constantly sit, shuffle units back and forth, the infinite healing, the infinite self-regeneration where people can no longer DPS you down, you'll always have that mech over the post. That doesn't happen anymore. Outposts have limited energy. It runs out. Eventually you will die if there's enough focus fire. A lot of the things that give the defender an advantage, I mean, unless you want to take away sockets too, have been gotten rid of, and the only real core thing left that I feel like is working for the defender is the unit positioning, which is something that can't be removed from AirMech. That concave, that perpendicular, that the fact that they'll have more units shooting as soon as equal forces come into contact with each other. So I think it's in a good spot right now, especially now that we have the new movement freedom, where it really does become an issue of outmaneuvering your opponent, that you're able to attack somewhere that's not their strength. You can push somewhere, and that the direction of that push is not completely predictable, so the defender is unable to prepare for every situation anymore.
Well, the reason the concave works so well as defender's advantage is because the tanks being pushed come in a line one by one. So if the tank pushing mechanic was changed so that when you mass command units, they set up in a concave as well while they're pushing, then you would have an equal chance of the defender's units to beat the defender's concave could beat the attacker's concave.
So if you wanted to nerf defender's advantage even more, I'd say reduce overall unit upkeep, because you can reach a critical mass of anti-air and things like that will keep people from effectively assaulting a post. And so if you reduce the total number of units, if you push with all your strength, all your unit upkeep to one post, unless your defender has everything they have there, you should be able to take it. But the problem is, capturing more outposts, holding more territory doesn't expose you. It gives you more upkeep as you take more outposts. So you're able to just constantly turtle up, expand, turtle up more, expand, turtle up more, expand, because the upkeep given by one outpost is more than enough to defend that outpost. You could just remove the upkeep benefits from outposts and just make one flat upkeep. That way the person with more map advantage is actually at a disadvantage as far as their unit positioning goes.
Okay, I'm glad that I was gonna comment on that. Annihilator?
Like, the thing is, even if the upkeep was even, you would have the problem where if it's dangerous, because you could be pushed in at any front, then you just keep all your tanks in queue. You already see this from high levels, and it just really mitigates, like, trying to abuse the fact that they don't have a certain post defended and they focus more on some other post, because they can just ferry out 15 golly and you lose the push, like, just like that.
Well, I put this in a suggestion the other day, make the build queue based on unit upkeep rather than the actual slots that it takes, so that you could have only 1 or 2 goalies in queue. You can't just have
you can still keep a ton in your
deck.
queue. Just having that extra 6 gollies in every situation is also really strong, I feel.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe like, I think there should be a cooldown based on the upkeep of how often you can take units out of a post.
They actually
and it should also be shared between
recently.
players. Like, well, I'm not sure about that, but basically, it shouldn't be possible to like ferry out 15 golly or even 6 and just have those units at any point when you're defending.
Right. I hear you, but I just wanted to chime in and say that actually added recently, fairly recently, it's actually like a couple months ago, where pulling a unit out of a post costs energy, and so you can adjust the values that, what does this unit is this unit's cost to deploy, and so the outpost would run out of energy, and if you pull out 12 Goliaths, well, you only do 2 because the outpost doesn't have enough energy to do that. You could increase the value.
Well, I think the problem is, even if you don't have any energy in your outpost, you can still pull out units. The outpost doesn't not allow you to pull out units. So if you cheese an outpost, say, you can immediately take out all of your tanks, even though the outpost has no energy.
But you would also have health regen for a good.
Right. So yeah, I think that mechanic could definitely be tweaked to equalize the defender's advantage.
It's something I think that we need to look specifically into. It will make small differences, but yeah. Go ahead.
The other issue I feel is that defender can micro better, and I actually feel that that's the strongest part, because that uses their army so much more efficiently. So I don't know how you exactly reduce that. Maybe increase the range of flaggers or something. That's really dangerous to do that.
I don't think you have to decrease the defenders being able to micro. I think you have to increase the attacker's ability to micro. So, if you gave if you gave mechs more energy or anti-air less damage, then the attackers could stay around their units for longer and be able to micro them around. Because when I micro units during an attack, I always notice that I'm always out of energy or I'm always low on health, while the defenders always has full health and energy just because they have a outpost closer than I do.
Yeah.
Push with 20 seekers.
Yeah, that doesn't work very well either. I mean, and they have.
Oh, sorry, wrong meta. Push with 30 heavy flag seekers.
All right, guys. I understand the points that you're making, and see, they're all true. But here's the thing. I'm gonna go as far as to say that defender's advantage might even be not enough anymore. Just because if you think about how the game is played right now, it's very tank heavy. When you push in with tanks. Okay. And the defender's advantage just allows you to prepare for the tanks to come in and put your units in defensive position, and the concave is very, very much a factor because the tanks, your defensive tanks, will fire on the the incoming tanks, boom, 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 kill them all. I think especially with the new pathing and with probably a little bit more proper balance and maybe a small swing in overall unit rolls, we could not really make this a factor anymore. If you pushed with all jackals, the defender's advantage doesn't really come into play nearly as much. Unit micro is not going to be as important because the jackals are going to get us around. Defender's advantage because of incoming defensive lines are not really going to be as much as an advantage because the jackals will just zip in and the tanks will barely able to get really very many shots before the jackals actually reach their destination. Just speaking about jackals, just because it's the easiest thing to come up with, and it's the most common thing right now, so it's the easiest thing to relate with. But in general, lighter, faster units are not going to have light units are already OP. That's completely wrong. Anyway, that kind of approach will almost negate defender's advantage completely, especially if especially if light units already were kind of back in their old role as neutralizers. You know what I mean? And I'll probably go on to a rant if I go any further, and won't stop for like an hour and a half. So, but yeah, that's also something to consider. What are you actually pushing in? It's such a tank-centric game. Let's try to think outside the box a little more. Okay, guys, we're going to
confess that most of defender's advantage is derived from the outpost, so neutralizing the post gets rid of defender's advantage.
Yeah.
But you're trying to segue, so I'll let you do that.
Screw the segue. Next topic will be the Resign button. GGWP. Sometimes, after a certain point, you just know that you have no chance no matter what you try to do. A large majority of AirMech games that go the distance spend a big chunk of time winding down, with one team sweeping the rest of the map and the other team suffering in agony awaiting their inevitable defeat. Due to this, talks of introducing an option to resign the game have recently come about, and the possibility of the quick GG is looking very likely. Eagle, what are the pros and cons of implementing a resign button, and how do you think it will do you think it will eventually happen?
So I really like this suggestion for a couple of reasons. First off, lots of other games have a surrender options. So if the teams are just unfair, or if a teammate disconnects from the game, you could just resign and move on to the next game. I'm actually surprised it hasn't been added to AirMech already, honestly, because having the ability to resign would just cut down on rage and allow people to quickly forget about their loss and move on to the next match. So I think this would especially help the newer players who join matchmaking and are placed against an experienced team, which happens very often. So I think it would be a good band-aid until we get a good enough player base so that we can match players based on skill more often. So if they know they can just end the game and start a new one, they won't focus so much on the loss and really just have more fun.
Annihilator?
Well, I don't really have much to say about it because already Hugh's leaving the game as a resign button, and I mean, yeah, like we already see a resign button. I treat it as that, kind of, and I don't see, like, if you want a resign button, then use that.
Frisky?
I think a resign button can be a good thing and a bad thing. I mean, going to see fewer comebacks with it, but along the same lines, like, you know, if the game's over, it's over, and no one wants to quit as Carbon punishes you for quitting. You don't get the rewards, you don't get the goals, you don't get the, you know, whatever it is for that. You don't get the drops if you quit. And, you know, it would be nice to just say GG, leave, and get in another game, because they take a long time, and that's a long time that you have people locked in game who could be in the matchmaking system, who could be funneling into other games and playing stuff, and, you know, making it so I don't have to wait 20 minutes to find one game.
The main pros and cons that haven't been addressed yet, for me, the biggest pro, obviously, there is going to be that 2 to 3 minutes of agony that you're just going to just sit and wait for defeat, and it sucks. And yeah, and sometimes people do have the opportunity to actually do just troll you and just extend the game and like force you into domination. Don't even push. You know, there's just it reduces that potential for people to troll you. But I think the biggest con probably will be the early GG once people realize that they probably won't win and not necessarily have no chance. I think a lot of the games might be mid-fight over GG next game, and that's not how AirMech should be, I think. It obviously is definitely due to how powerful mid is on certain maps, and other things too. Cheese, lose, bye, leaving, just GG, and gonna go to the next one. It is a good thing just because of what Frisky said. People will just start to rotate in and out of the matchmaking system a lot more, but I think at the size of the player base that doesn't have that big of a factor. I mean, it kind of does. If we had a bigger player base, it'd be like it doesn't even, you know, that wouldn't even need to happen, I guess. It really does depend on the specifics of the certain time frame and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't really like a resign button in general for the reason that I just said. But just hopefully the game will be further balanced and revised and all that stuff. Maybe I don't want to even mention map editor again, even though I just technically did. But yeah, we just need situations where a fight isn't completely done after a certain early portion of the game.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to consider the possibility of farming aspect of a resign button. So, like, do you get rewards if you resign from a game, or do you get half the rewards that if you had put the game all the way to the end? So, like, some people in the chat were saying, can you abuse it to get kudos, or maybe for leaderboards, getting PvP wins or something? I don't know. So I think there also should be a time limit. Maybe 5 minutes into the game you're allowed to resign, so that way you can't just leave after mid-fight. You have to kind of play it a little bit at least.
Yeah, like that. I think they said something that along the lines of it probably won't be available until 10 minutes or 5 minutes, 7, whatever. I mean, if a time limit, or not a time limit, but a time minimum, I guess, is the way you could put it, is if that's implemented, that'd be great. Okay, Resign.
+1.
Alright guys, we're going to move on to the first viewer question of the day, which is going to actually be a Twitch chat question from last session that I was able to catch, or someone was able to catch. I think Insane caught it for me or something like that. It is going to be from Solid Smell, and it is about the Neo Ultimate and what possible alternatives that it will have. So, the ultimate ability for the Neo. Any suggestions for what it should be, Annihilator? Keep the one already there, or change it to something else?
Can actually someone else do this, because I don't do Neo at all.
Okay. Frisky?
Neo's got a lot of difference going for it right now. What's the ultimate? Is that the missile scramble?
Yeah, right now.
Or the radar jam? Okay, it's the missile scramble?
Yeah.
Instead of missile scramble. I always want to take 2 minutes to think about this. That's why I like going last.
Alright, I will go. I think, personally, I like abilities that make new aspects to the game. So, not stuff like rockets for the striker or helix that just kind of, they're already there, but you get to put them in, or like the damage on the angel. It's just more damage, it's not really cool. I like stuff like the saucer, where you can teleport units from your build queue. I think stuff like that is really cool. And, I think the Neo's ability is kind of like that. It's got a cool animation. You look and feel epic while you're using it, and it works. And I mean, there is a counter to it. You can use flackers. I don't really know what the problem is with Neo's ultimate ability right now. I think it's good, and there's definitely other mechs that could use a new ability before the Neo.
Just came up with something. Maybe the Neo could drain energy with each shot.
Ha. Yeah, that's actually something. I'll give my input, Frisky. I hope I don't take everything. But yeah, I would. There was an old thread, not that old, but there was an older thread from Silbermutt, who is now called PowerCore, and he basically suggested to switch the ultimate ability with the radar jamming ability. There's been a lot of suggestions for the radar jamming ability. We talked about that kind of last time, or the time before, I don't remember exactly, but yeah, I really do. And actually I was going to suggest something similar to what Annihilator said. I really do think that the two abilities should be switched. The Missile Scramble should be a normal ability, and it should be energy based, so you just can't jump into 50 Seekers, which is obviously an exaggeration, but you know, just a bunch of Seekers, redirect everything and just leave. It's a little crazy, it's a little overpowered. If you could redirect per missile or something like that, maybe per DPS value of the missile, however the hell you want to balance it, and make it something appropriate. And that way it can't be ridiculously spammed. If you jump into too much stuff, then you're dead. And yeah, just the radar scramble should, I personally think it really should be the ultimate. That's kind of the point of the Neo. We should probably rework it, as we said before, but getting past enemy lines, screwing with their mini-maps, and you know, the mini-map is such a crucial part of the, you know, of the game. Just, it's so important, and if we could, yeah.
I would agree. Minimap is definitely critical in dogfights. I don't even look at the main screen when I'm shooting people down. I'm looking at the map, and so when I'm fighting a Neo, I actually end up losing more often than not. But oh well. Anyway, I think the missile scramble ability, although it's cool, although it can be useful a lot, I actually don't like it. I don't think it's a good ability for the Neo. I don't think it, like all the other mechs' ultimate abilities supplement their main role in some way, and they're usable in every scenario, whereas with the Neo, it's really only useful and it's only popular as a reaction to this mass anti-air meta where people were just spamming 50 Seekers and 2 Longhorn, and that's the way that they push with. And the Neo is actually kind of able to deal with that with its ultimate. But as you know, Seekers get, as things like that start to fade out of popularity, I think you're going to see a lot more diverse unit tactics that don't involve things that necessarily have lots of homing missiles. So the Neo's ultimate ability is really only going to affect the Striker, the Helix, and it's only going to counter a few things that you may or may not encounter in any given game. So what I'd like to see is a power for the Neo that supplements its main stealth and harassment role. So I think of Neo, I think of cloaking, I think of radar scrambling. So I would say, what if the ultimate ability gave you like a 10-second timer or something that upgrades like that, where you can shoot while cloaked, or cloaking doesn't cost energy, or it just like gives you 10 seconds or something where you can stay cloaked regardless of what you're doing, and it doesn't cost additional energy. That would be my idea.
I was just thinking of some ideas. The Bomber's ability is most similar to the Neo's right now, so I think, what if the Neo's ability was a toggle like the Bomber, rather than a timer where it goes on for 5 seconds and you have to wait 20 or whatever it is. So like you could toggle it on, so if you're in a group of Seekers, you can turn it on and then it drains energy, and then you could turn it off and leave, and then you can use it whenever you want.
Yeah, I like that. Actually, I kind of would prefer in certain ways for every ultimate ability and every ability to begin with to be not cooldown based, but energy based. It sort of prevents you from just spamming it as much as you possibly can. That's kind of what you do as a striker or a helix, even. Just snipe as many units as you possibly can with your triple missile burst thing, and it really does remove the necessary. It really does remove the need to think about how you're using it, and it just really urges you to use it as much as you possibly can. The cooldown needs to count down as fast as you use it as much as you can, because it's a cooldown based thing, not energy based. So
yeah, and then I was just thinking the Hog's ability could also be turned into a toggle that drains energy, rather than just every 90 seconds you go in and kill as much stuff and then die or escape and then rinse and repeat.
Exactly. Okay, guys, we're going to move on to the next viewer question.
So I definitely think it's a mechanic that could be looked at, yeah.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, we're going to move on to the next viewer question. It is going to be from Insomniac311. Oh, wait, whoa, where did my... Okay, anyway, I think I have the last one. Anyway, yeah, it's going to be from Insomniac311, and it's going to be directed to EagleShadow. Are there any players that you watch for while spectating games, and why?
I don't necessarily look for a specific player, besides like the greats such as Stardog, Valnor, Boomhauer, Tangibility. If I see them, I'll definitely watch their game just to see what they're doing and if I should be doing it. Other than that, I just look for semi-high tier games at least that are that are even. So I just want to see a back and forth game that has lots of pushes and attacks, rather than just a turtle or a stomp of pros versus noobs. So that's just what I look for.
Annihilator?
At this point, I don't even look for players. Mostly it's my own, just to analyze what I'm doing wrong, because I mean, as is player-based, there's not a ton of people that can like crush me 1v1. So at this point, I don't look at other people's much.
Frisky?
Well, naturally, Tangibility, since he doesn't really play that much anymore, I actually do spectate a handful of games by Enemy, which, they're players that kind of do weird things every now and then. They use units that are underloved, like the whole, send Buckies patrolling in circles around your fort and make the ring around the rosy endless motor pool of Buckies. I think that was originally Enemy's idea, and it does a handful of things that you'd never expect and then somehow work. Tangibility just has that magical power to make any unit look like it's overpowered, and so I like to see things that you would have never thought of being exploited against good players.
Yeah, Tangi's the obvious choice. Any of the people who are considered to be the top players in the game of all time, obviously easy choices to spectate. Insomniac, everyone in the Twitch chat, or sorry, in the Mumble chat, is sort of riding the Insomniac spectate train right now. I've spectated Insomniac enough times to it's hilarious. You kind of can figure out what he's going to do just by looking at his loadout, because he just tries to do... basically, you look at his loadout, you think what should happen, and then you throw that out the window, and then you just say, okay, what ridiculous thing is he going to do right now? Anyway, But yeah, in general, I try to realize who up-and-coming players are. I like to try to spec them. I like to see actually how players evolve and how they are playing, especially after a hiatus. How basic mechanical skills stick with you, and how much the current meta actually affects players who previously might have been at the top of the food chain. And that's something that's really interesting for me to see. There's a few players in a couple factions, obviously some Anger players, some Javadi players, even some Grizzlywing players I'm really familiar with. I still like to see how they are doing from time to time. But other than that, I like to see funny names in Twitch chat, or sorry, in the watch tab, and the best names I just have to see how they're doing, and because people make the best names. Yeah, man, tofu pants. Okay, guys, last question of the night. And, oh! Okay, hold on. That's wrong. Alright, 1 sec, guys. I have to figure out what the hell is happening with my topics.
I don't know.
Yeah, sorry, I gotta... Oh, man. Weak. What's happening? Okay.
It was a rhetorical question, so I gave you a rhetorical answer. That makes sense.
Ah, okay. I accidentally skipped one. That's why. Alright, I'll put it back on. This is actually going to you, Frisky. Initially, anyway.
What?
Yeah, and it's initially from Fat Asian Beast. And it is, why do players feel the need to respond to an attack? If the opponent is bum rushing an outpost, why do players try to neutralize that attack and not cheese or attack another outpost the enemy is neglecting? As Broadside once said, the strongest counter to cheese is counter cheese. Probably a paraphrase. For example, a 1v1 Nesthorn game where the enemy skips mid and is going for a gap jump push, why don't you do the same thing instead of just responding to the attack?
I think a lot of people would just straight counter cheese and just go straight to the other person's close. The reason that I don't like to do that is because it feels like I'm committing to the base race, which to me is not an interesting game. It is going to be fast, it is going to be action-packed, but you know exactly how it's going to play out, and you're pretty much just rolling the dice at that point to see who won. I like to respond to the attack. I generally start my games fairly defensive and then go scout with my mech. But I like to respond to it because, one, I would be counter-cheesing a reaction, so it's now base race and who can fortify the other person's close. But they had the first move, and now I have to try and take theirs after they've taken mine, unless I'm completely on the ball. And I feel like any situation where I'm trying to counter-cheese, I'm now at a disadvantage. So I'd rather respond effectively.
Yeah,
For me,
I highly agree.
Go ahead.
I highly agree with Frisky. Like on the last point, if you go for the counterattack, well, basically they got there first. They're one step ahead at this point, and unless they mess up, they're just gonna be one step ahead for a while, at least. So like if you say on Nesthorn, you lose your forward, but then you manage to do a counterattack that's a bit delayed, and you take their forward. Well, they can go for your base or your close immediately, and you don't. And like if you go for the base, it's a base race. Then their units will get there first, and so it's a delayed thing for a response. So you don't really want to do it.
Eagle.
I think for me at least, it's more of a panic move. So when they take my outpost, I think, hey, that's supposed to be my outpost, so I just immediately try and get it back. But I think ideally what you'd want to do is drop some units at their outpost and kind of force them to decide if they want to have the potential of their outpost being cheesed or just fully commit to what they're doing. And then, well, after you drop those units, you go back and defend so that they aren't able to push. And then if they don't react, you can take that outpost and you'll already have a defense set up, and then you can slowly put units at that other cheesed outpost and maybe make an attack. But I don't know. For me, yeah, it's just panic for me. I'm just not good under pressure, so I just want everything to be in order.
And Eagle's response...
I would provide a counterexample to my own opinion. There are definitely times when I would go for their cheese instead. If it's clear that they are committing to the cheese, that they're going to dump everything they can into capturing the post, and then they bring out like 4 hats apiece and then 6 longhorn, they are bunkering up. That's when I'll go attack their post just to try and cost them the upkeep, and then I can actually win the base race.
Yeah, Eagle's response is kind of pretty much the normal mentality of players where you see something and you're kind of like, oh no, I have to stop that from happening, even though probably it's too late. One person whose opinion I would love to get right now, but he's not here, is Good Day, because I would guess his answer would be somewhat to the tune of people do that because they're stupid and they don't know what to do because there's always something better to do. The Good Day is one of the people who plays insanely aggressively, and just like if something got I remember talking to him after we played a game against him, and someone else was on his team and was like, yeah, that guy, I don't even know I was responding to that cheese. It was lost already. We were just, yeah. And because, I mean, he eventually won that game for his team for the most part. And they had a, more forward outposts because we were going sort of cheesy trade or something like that. And yeah, it's just the mentality of what you need to, I guess kind of the general AirMech mentality is sort of playing it safe. And this is sort of the way to respond to something dangerous is stop that from happening. I do want to comment that probably the general best response, if you're going to try to stop that from happening, would to try to neutralize the outpost that just got taken as quickly as possible. That's the #1 priority. If there's units around, pretend they're not there, neutralize as fast as you can, and do anything in your power to actually accomplish that, including maybe die if you have a teammate on your team, if you're not playing a 1v1. Yeah, these guys, I think they hit it right on the head. It's once you get surprised, you can't really counter surprise your opponent because they are not only one step ahead, but they were prepared and actually planning for that maneuver. Whereas if you decide to actually take the same maneuver, you don't have the preset steps that are necessary to really make that maneuver as powerful as they probably need to be. If you're going to counter cheese and you don't have any infantry or morties on the field, I guess in the current state of the game example, if you don't have any morties already built, you have to build them. It takes time. Everything takes the next step, and it's a little bit sad that that's kind of how the game is. If you were going to play and that something like that happened to you, I would really consider after the game is done rewatching it. Like Annihilator said, he likes to watch his own games because to see what he did wrong and all that stuff, how he can improve. And yeah, just rewatch the game, and when something like that happens, pause the game, see what other options you possibly could have done, and you could have learned, and you can learn from that moment in time. I was going for mid, maybe I should just all in for mid as much as I possibly could, or just straight up push Y from there, and maybe that distraction will be enough to keep them away from my close outpost and I can take that back, something like that. But yeah, rewatch your replays, guys. /replay last, definitely a valuable command in the info tab. Okay, so
while we're at it, just plug for Amana. It's a replay software to sets up everything, and it's also a nice UI for your replays.
Oh yeah, Amana, made by Nomo, very widely used application. I know people are hesitant to install third-party software, but I know Nomo myself. I mean, not in person, but we've talked. I'm in correspondence with Nomo all the time because of my need for replay functionality. So yeah, I mean, it's completely safe. People use it all the time, so you guys got to use it, install it. It'll help you find the replay you need and send them to me. Anyway, so yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. That concludes this episode of AirMech Talk. I would like to thank our new panelists, Annihilator and EagleShadow. Annihilator had to really figure out some alternatives to be able to even get on stream with a quality microphone, so I want to just thank you for putting in that effort and being a panelist and having great responses today.
See ya, everyone.
Alright, and EagleShadow, everyone hopefully is appreciative to everything EagleShadow has done for the community, so once again, thanks for coming on, and really great contributions actually. So hopefully we can have you on another time.
Yeah, thanks. It'd be really fun.
And Frisky?
Yes, son.
Nah, nothing really. I was just saying hi.
I love you too.
Anyway, alright guys, that concludes the 5th episode of AirMech Talk. Once again, if you'd like to be a panelist, try to contact me. There's so many ways to do it. Steam, email, in-game mail, forum PM, YouTube message, blah, 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 stalk me, find me, hack and find my IP, I don't know. And yeah, I know I kind of offer it up every time. If you want to be a panelist, do this, but this time I'm going to say, please be a panelist. I need panelists. I have to find them every week. It's a little bit difficult. Annihilator, probably one of the only people that have directly volunteered. I do have a volunteer for next week. Leave that up to the next post. But yes, there's going to be there's going to be more panelists in the future, and hopefully one of them will be you. Whether you're watching it live on Twitch or if you're watching the archive video on the highlight Twitch, or if you're watching the YouTube video from my YouTube channel probably tomorrow or something like that, whenever the hell I release it. Yeah, guys, I want you. I don't know who you are, but I know you're watching, and just because you don't think you're pro level doesn't mean you can't participate in this AirMech Talk. So once again, this is RUY, and this has been episode 5 AirMech Talk. Thanks for watching, and have a good night.